Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Gossip Finance, where I'm your host, Alacius Inger.
And I'm Duncan Sandlin. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How is everybody today? Hopefully good. How are you, Lace?
I am absolutely fabulous, and I can't wait to jump into the news because, it just keeps getting weirder and weirder every single week.
Every single week. Well, we got to cover some Trump stuff today, but I wanted to start with this because this is just funny to me. So Trump recently tweeted that he won the golf tournament at his golf course, which I don't know why you brag about that, but okay.
Listen, Duncan, you have so little going for you and basically everything against you. I mean, listen, you got to take any victory you possibly can get sometimes.
Even if you have to lie.
And he doesn't have the victories lining up.
Nope. Even if you have to cheat.
Well,
even if he has to cheat to do it, which he always does. So he's historically known for cheating at golf. But I want to go into this clip because with all his legal shit and all of his problems, that's what he was talking about this weekend. Is I won the senior trophy and the clubhouse trophy, and I'm like, great, good for you.
Meanwhile, he's standing next to the hole, kicking his ball into it. Right?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Total cheater. Hang on. Watch this.
All right.
Donald Trump celebrating a big win today, not in the election, not even in court, but on the golf course. He's taken out, apparently, 2 club championship trophies at his Trump International Golf Club in Florida, posting on social media that it was a great and difficult course with some amazing match play. His presidential opponent, Joe Biden, then tweeted, "Congratulations, Donald. Quite the accomplishment." I'm sure it was totally legitimate. Kieran, your trophy cabinet's pretty full, but
I like how Joe Biden had to clap back. Good job, buddy. You're facing criminal fraud.
Super funny.
Yep. You owe the court $500 million and you're facing 10 years in prison for fraud. But hey, congratulations.
You know what's beautiful about that? That was such a winning move on Biden's part right there, because the people who really want him to be sarcastic can really read that. Congratulations, Donald, quite the accomplishment, and be super happy. But he can be like, no, I wasn't being sarcastic. I was really being nice, because it's congratulations, Donald, quite the accomplishment.
Yeah.
Well played, Biden. Well played for Biden's writers.
Oh, it's great. It's like you talk to a 4-year-old. You know, good job, buddy. Play with this. Let the adults talk. Anyway, what I wanted to do about it, because it's so funny. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I can't remember how long it was. I remember, I didn't read the whole book, but I read part of it while I was in the bookstore because it was so funny. It was called Commander in Cheat. And it was written by a golf pro. And it was all the stories of the times that Donald Trump cheated at golf. And they're all fucking ridiculous. They're hilarious. So we're going to watch a little bit of that on Lawrence O'Donnell here because they're just hilarious.
Dr. Lance Dotis, a Harvard Medical School professor of psychiatry, is one of the co-authors of the bestseller, The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. Professor Dotis has appeared on this program discussing that book and the president's personality disorder. And in Rick Riley's best-selling new book, Commander in Cheat, How Golf Explains Trump, Professor Dotis explains why Donald Trump cheats at golf. Because he has to. He needs to be the best at everything. He can't stand not winning, not being the best. It had to have started very early in his development. To him, not being the best is like fingernails on the blackboard to you. He can't live with it. He exaggerates his golf scores and his handicap for the same reason he exaggerates everything. He has to. He exhibits all the traits of a narcissistic personality disorder. People with this...
So, I want to we'll get into more of this because the thing about it is, at certain points, so the way it works in golf is if you're a member of the PGA, so usually it's by state, so like the Oregon PGA, the OPGA is what I do. So when you post your scores to get your handicap, right, and your handicap is the number of strokes you get if you're playing somebody better or somebody worse, right? They get strokes or you get strokes to make it more even. So when you post your scores, it's honor system, right? You post your score at the end, and any day anymore you just post it on the computer, right? So it's in your best interest I mean, I've never thought about cheating on it, but it's in your best interest to be honest, because if I have a lower handicap,
Get the appropriate handicap.
right? Because if I lie and say I have a lower handicap than I do, then when I play somebody who's a better golfer and I say, oh, we have the same handicap, if we're playing for money, now I'm not getting strokes, and I'm playing somebody who's better than me, right? But Trump doesn't do that. Trump lies, and at several points, if what he was saying was true about his golf scores, then he would have been one of the top 5 golfers in the world. That's just such bullshit. So he doesn't just lie; he fucking lies. I mean, it's like overt and over the top. So let's get into. I want to get into this interview a little bit because it's just funny to me.
To give the audience a quick taste of the kind of cheating Donald Trump engages in when he's out there in the golf course.
Okay. It's incredible. I mean, he kicks the ball so much that the caddies call him Pele. He'll kick your ball in the bunker. He's been known to fake a bunker shot as though he was actually hitting a ball, but the ball is in his right hand. And then he reaches in the hole and pretends he holed it. He's been known, if he's on your team, he'll kick your ball into a better position. And a lot of guys are like, what are you doing? I can't do, and they put it back. Some guys, when they're on his team and he cheats the whole way around, win, and they go out to the parking lot and give the money back. I mean, Lawrence, I can't tell you how strange this is in the world of golf. For a guy it'd be like if you walked in the Sistine Chapel, set your lazy boy down, smoked a cigar, and did your laundry. It's just, we don't do this in golf, and there's no reason for him to be such a cheater in golf. He's over 70 years old. He's about a 10 handicap. That's pretty good. There's no reason he's got to lie and say he's a 3. There's no reason he's got to say, I've won 20 club championships, when I can't prove that he's won any. He's won club championships that he didn't even play in. Sometimes he wasn't even in the same state. Sometimes he walks into a clubhouse, sees the other guy's name on the wall, and goes, oh, I beat that guy all the time. Make me the club champion for that year. And they're like, what? And they got to pull this guy's name down and put his name up. I mean, I don't know about politics. I'm just a sports writer. But I've been covering golf for 40 years, and you don't do this. You don't drive your cart on greens. You don't cheat your friends. It's a game where it's the easiest game to cheat at, because you're 200 yards over there, Lawrence, and I'm 200 yards over here, and I trust you're not going to throw it out of the woods, and you trust me that I'm not going to pick it out of the water. And yet there's a whole group.
So you get the taste of it, right? He cheats constantly on every hole. So they said, the guys at the caddies at his own golf course call him Pele, who's the soccer player, because he kicks the ball all the time to put himself in better position.
That is so weird. That's so weird. Like, why are you doing all of that?
Because he's narcissistic. He has to win. He can't, and it doesn't matter that he cheats to him, because even though it's a hollow victory, everybody knows he didn't win. Like he said, there have been times when he said, I won, my club tournament, and he wasn't even in town for the tournament. And they've got him on camera in another location during the tournament. He's saying, we won it. He was there. In fact, one of my favorites was from the book. If you guys haven't read the book, it is freaking funny. He's playing, I guess Tiger Woods was playing him. He was playing with Tiger Woods or something. And I guess Tiger didn't really want to do it, but he did play around with him anyway. So they're playing a hole, and it's I think it's like a par 3, but you have to carry over water, so you have to hit the ball over the water. Well, Trump hits the ball into the water, right? So if you hit the ball in the water, just so you know, that's a stroke. So that means now you have to hit it again off the tee, but now you hit 1 in the water, 2 to put it back on the tee, so now you're hitting 3 off the tee. So he hits it in the water again. So that's 4, put it back on the tee, now he's hitting 5. Or he's hitting, 3 through the water, 4 to get it out, 5, right? Then he hits it like over the green somewhere, hits it across the green, finally gets it back onto the green in like 2 or 3 putts. So he's hitting like 7 or 8 on this hole, on a par 3, right? Of course, Tiger hits it on 2 putts, gets a par, right? And Trump's saying, yeah, we tied that hole. I parred, you got like a quintuple bogey.
So now we know that's how bad Trump has to do in order for him to even say he tied. Instead of just beat somebody, right?
That's just
oh my God.
But anyway, speaking of him lying, it's the civil fraud trial where he owed $500 billion, right? Because he lied about the value of his properties and said they were worth a lot more than they are. Well, he owed that money. He last week said to the court, and we covered this a little bit, and I covered it some more, said he didn't have it. His lawyer said it was an impossibility to get the money for the bond. So the way that works is he owes whatever it is, 460 or 70 billion, or million, sorry. So Letitia James gave him basically 30 days, which is fairly standard. So he's got 30 days to put up a bond. So he puts up a bond with the court, which is either cash, or he can put up his properties, or he can go to an insurance company or a surety company or broker, or somebody can lend him the money, whatever. But the money's then sitting with the court, right, essentially. So that way, they can't seize his assets or his property while he's pending for appeal. Once the appeal is either rejected or the appeals, he just loses the appeal, then they can go after his property if that bond is sitting there. But he couldn't get the money for the bond, the $500 million, right? Nearly $500 million. So they went and begged the court, and it looked like last minute that Letitia James Monday was going to be having to seize properties, which I'm sure she wasn't thrilled about, but because it's tedious work, and it costs a lot of money to do. But what ended up happening was the appeals court came back and said, all right, Trump, here's the deal. We'll let you pay us $175 million on the bond to prevent us from seizing your assets. Doesn't change the judgment. He still owes the 460 or 70, whatever it is, with interest racking up, right? But all it does is say, look, we're not going to go after your assets until after the appeal if you give us $175 million, and we'll give you 10 days from Monday to do it. So they gave him a little bit of an extension, and they lowered the amount that he had to put in. Well, we're going to go into this. The Democrats, not the Democrats, I mean, people on the left, on the, you know, sort of cable news media kind of people, they were all pissed off and freaking out about this, like it was a big deal. I didn't really see it coming, but I wasn't really shocked when it happened. And then the right wing was like taking victory laps, like he won something big here. So we're going to look at both sides, and then we're going to look at.
So it's funny to consider that a victory because just because you didn't have all of your stuff seized is not a victory make. You know what I'm saying? Like.
But it doesn't change the judgment. He didn't win anything. He just got a little bit more time and a little bit of a break. And it is unfair because, like, if it were you or me and we owed $500 to the court for a parking violation, right, or something like that, they probably, you know, if we begged them, they might give us some extra time and stuff. But, you know, a lot of people, they just go seize their shit on little things like that. So, I mean, I get where it's a little unfair that he got that, but at the same time, it's like, you know, we'll go into it a little bit more, but let's look at both sides because I think it was just funny how everybody reacted. I didn't think it was a big deal, but everybody kind of overreacted to this.
An unexpected relief for Donald Trump as he faces a ticking clock on his $454 million civil fraud judgment. A New York appeals court today deciding it will accept that much smaller bond, $175 million, agreeing to block collection if he puts it up within 10 days. So, while he now has more time, Trump will still be forced to answer the question, does he or doesn't he have the money? This is what he said just moments ago.
Greatly respect the decision of the appellate division, and we will abide by that. We'll put up cash or bond very quickly, securities, cash or bond, whatever it is. We'll put it up very quickly, and we'll win the case. Have a lot of cash. You know I did because you looked at my statements. I mean, you've been examining my statements for a long time, and I have much more than that in cash. But I would also like...
You've been examining my statements. Yeah, the ones you lied on? That we determined you lied on? So, we'll do a friendly bet. I would bet $20 he can't even get the $175 million in 10 days.
I'm gonna bet the same. Yeah. I feel like that's got my vote too. I don't think he'll be able to get it.
We'll see if he can. He got the E. Jean Carroll bond, the $91 million, but he had to put up like $50 or $60 million in cash. So he had to put up most of it in cash, and then they had some. I'm sure they have the ability to seize whatever properties he has. I'm sure he put up a shit ton in collateral. So, I mean, he barely got that at the last minute. So, what are the odds he can get almost twice that in 10 days? Especially after 30 companies have just turned him down, according to him at least.
Yeah, that seems a little rough.
Yeah, we'll see what
honestly.
He does. But here's the reaction. So this is Fox News, and they're making fun of the sort of the Democratic reaction on MSNBC, and rightfully so. I think it was kind of stupid. I hate to agree with Fox News, but I mean, it was a little over the top. But then their response is equally over the top on the other side, and it's fucking ridiculous. So this is just look, if you're a Fox watcher or viewer and you're into this shit, I'm sure you liked it. But if you're like a rational sort of regular sort of person like me and Lacey, especially like leftists like us, we watch it and we're like, this is fucking hilarious. This is good television. These people who are so stupid. I mean, they get a chance to dig at the other side and then they just shoot themselves in the foot. It's hilarious to me.
Democrats and the media, who were once thrilled about the prospect of Trump surrendering his assets, now fuming over the decreased bond.
This is so infuriating, I don't even know what to do. You know, now he's getting his own private system of justice. This is an absolute travesty.
But certainly, this is one heck of a break for, yet again, Teflon Don.
The playbook is different for former President Trump.
He's pretty much gotten everything he's wanted. For what reason? No one else in the country would have that kind of luck.
And my favorite, Bonnie Willis, is back.
So they have a point there. That's a little over the top. Okay, so they reduced the bond amount a little bit. He's still got to appeal it. What are the odds that he wins the appeal?
I do see, though, as kind of a matter of principle, because most likely I wouldn't get that sort of a deal. You know,
most of us wouldn't.
The person down the street would not get that type of deal. So I do understand people being upset at sort of, you know, the appearance of like the hypocrisy of the thing. However, probably also I wouldn't be having to put up that sort of sum of money as well.
Right.
So me not getting a 10-day extension, you know, I also wouldn't probably be in a scenario that was valued at that sum of money either. So.
Right. Well, and you know, I don't disagree that it's a little over the top, just in appearance wise. But I think if you think about it, we'll get to it in a second. I think if you think about it from the appeals court's perspective, it makes a lot of sense. If you just take a minute and think about it, I think that's the one thing I don't think. I agree with you. It looks bad politically, but the court shouldn't be worried about what it looks like politically. And that's just my personal opinion. But here's the Fox 5. Now they've just done that. We're making fun of the Democrats for overreacting. And now they're going to jump in and they're going to not overreact.
There's lots to shoot at here. Which, take your pick, whichever one you want.
Thank you. The $175 million bond which certainly is appropriate because there was absolutely no connection between the $475 million and I think it's $500 million at this point with the interest that Engoron just pulled out of the sky and said, I'm going to hit Donald Trump for that. And, you know, they're just disappointed because they wanted to call him broke Don. And he's not broke Don anymore. He's going to make that $175 million bond. Now, it is conditioned, of course, upon his perfecting.
You want to bet, Janine? we're ready to bet.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
She's upset because that was trending was everybody was. You ever see the Godfather and the Godfather Don Corleone, right? So everybody was calling Trump Don Corleone because he's broke.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so this just corrects me. I love Janine Pirro. It's like she used to be a judge. So you'd think she'd give some sort of legal analysis. Yeah, that's why they call her Judge Janine. But I don't know. She's been drinking too much. I swear to God, she's trashed half the time she's on set. So yeah, Engoron did not pull these numbers out of his ass. Okay, so she should know this. It's called discouragement, right? So when there's not a specific victim, right? And you've been found liable for something, the courts can sit there and go, we're going to take all your ill-gotten gains and give it back to the people. Because you basically ripped off the state of New York by doing all this, which is true, which is what they found. So to do that, though, discouragement, we got to figure out how much ill-gotten gains was it. And that's what we're going to discourage. That's what we're going to take back, right? So Engoron didn't pull it out of his ass. I'm going to pull up this article here. It was just a simple one from the Washington Post. How Justice Engoron's numbers add up for Trump's penalty in the New York fraud trial. So it was 363.89 million, right? 354.8 was for Trump. But that was for 3 different, basically, frauds that he committed. Okay? 9 million of that was for his sons and a couple other executives in his firm, right? So, so let's see. Where did I get? So this is the 354. Okay. So Engoron found that Trump benefited from ill-gotten gains in 3 major categories, including the sale of the government lease for the former Trump International Hotel at the historic post office in Washington, sale of his rights to operate the Ferry Point Golf Course in New York City, and interest savings that Trump obtained by portraying himself as less of a financial risk than he was. So for the old post office, Engoron figured Trump's profits for the 2021 sale was about 126.8 million. So that's where that first number comes from. And then they go down and he adds up the others. So he owes 168 million to cover the savings he obtained and reduced interest rates by committing fraud. And then he owes another 60 million for profits for the sale. So the numbers are there. I mean, and Janine should know this. I mean, he wrote a 92-page summary. She's in the news. She should have read it. Fuck, I read it. And this isn't even our full-time gig. We just do this for part-time for fun.
Right.
But, and it's funny. I mean, if you read the whole 92-page thing, it's funny. It was a quick read. But, yeah, I mean, it's not like he pulled it out of his ass. He lied. He got caught. So she's going to go into this more. She's just crazy to me. But she just...
his appeal by September. That means he's got to have all his appellate work in the appellate division, first department, which rendered this decision reducing the bond. But I want to just, Dana, because I looked this up, when Sam Bankman-Fried, who apparently conned something like $1 million or 1 million victims, his bond was $250 million. Bernie Madoff had 40,000 victims. His bond was $10 million. Donald Trump, no victims, $500 million. I mean...
So, here's the difference. Those were criminal trials. Not civil. So the bond was to keep them out of jail, not to seize their assets. It's a very different bond. She should know that. She's comparing apples to oranges. So the whole thing is bullshit. Plus, it's not really a win.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
She's she's being very misleading, with that statement.
Well, that's what she gets
which
paid.
is frustrating because she knows.
Yeah, she should know. She gets paid to bullshit. But that's the thing that I think is so funny about the whole deal is it's not really a win for him. It didn't reduce the judgment, right? All it did was say, okay, you can put in a little less for the bond. We won't seize your assets till the appeal. Now, we can watch the rest of the five go fucking nuts over this and say stupid shit, but I think Judge Janine summed it up for us really nicely, so we can move on to the next one. Because we can watch Jessica Tarlov, and she's got a good response. But here's The Bulwark, which is more of a right-wing kind of news organization, but they're more like moderate kind of like Reagan kind of conservatives, right? The old conservatives. And here's George Conway, Kellyanne Conway's ex-husband, who was a federal lawyer, who's tried cases in the Supreme Court. I mean, sharp guy. I don't agree with his politics at all, but he's a smart guy. And here's him, and they ask him about it, and he sums this up pretty freaking quick and makes it really easy.
The election interference / hush money case isn't the only big news out of New York. Just today, this is breaking. In the New York business fraud case, the Court of Appeals just agreed to accept a smaller bond of $175 million instead of the $454 million they were originally going to do. And that original bond was due today, but now Trump has an additional 10 days to obtain it. So, I don't know, to me, $175 million still sounds like a lot of money, but this does seem like a win for Trump.
Yeah, it's a small win for Trump, and I don't think it's a surprising win. In fact, I put out on X or Twitter a few days ago that I thought I wouldn't be surprised if the appellate division, that's the name of this particular appeals court, the appellate division, First Department, cut back on the bond requirement to some extent. And that's what they did. They cut it down to 175 and gave him a few extra days to see if he could come up with that money, since he couldn't come up with the 464. But it's still a substantial sum of money. I'm not surprised that they did that. I read through the papers that both sides filed. Both sides wrote very good papers, and I thought the Trump people wrote very good papers. I mean, their point was that this is in a circumstance where you have damages where somebody's suffered some out-of-pocket loss. These are damages for, this is disgorgement for unjust profits. And it's not money that the state of New York needs to give to victims or anything like that. So why do they need the full bond? And that's not a crazy argument, and it could be. There are lots of different arguments here on the merits and on damages, and it could very easily be that the judgment gets cut back to some extent. I don't think it'll be thrown out altogether, but if it's cut back, it could be cut back by $100 million or $200 million and still be just a massive defeat for Donald Trump. And so
yeah, I think that's basically the simple nuts and bolts of it. Is this the appellate division basically sat down and said, well, look, he doesn't have the whatever 480 million or 70 million, whatever it is right now, right? So we could either start seizing his assets, or we could reduce it and give him a chance to put some money up. Now, I think if you're looking at it from a court's perspective, yeah, there aren't any direct victims that we have to give money to, that we need to make whole right now. So there's really no time crunch for us to get this money. So not a big deal. I also think the other thing is they also pretty much know or can guess that he probably doesn't have a lot of that. And that a lot of his assets, even if he took loans or whatever against him, he couldn't do that, because he could have done that if he had enough equity. He could have taken out a mortgage or something like that, or an equity loan. But he doesn't have any of that. He doesn't have enough of that. Otherwise, he'd have done it. Right? Unless he's bullshitting, which could be, but the other thing about it is this. Okay, well, he's not going to do it, so it looks like we're going to seize properties, right? So if we're going to seize properties, okay, that means Letitia James has got to hire attorneys. They've got to go get liens. They've got to get court orders. They got to freeze his bank accounts, which means we got to involve the sheriffs and all that stuff. And then even his New York properties, all combined, if they seized all those and sold them and got rid of them, still wouldn't cover it. So they'd have to go seize stuff out of state. They'd probably have to seize whatever stuff he's got in Europe, right? So now you're talking about international law, federal law. Now we're getting the FBI involved. Now we're getting the international courts involved. Now we're getting other countries. This is now a really expensive, tedious process. And this happened in California, where they seized a casino and they couldn't sell it for several years. So they weren't going to fire everybody. So what ended up happening was the state of California owned a casino and didn't do very well with it because they shouldn't be in the business of running a casino. So kind of,
and yeah, they probably weren't really trying to be in the business of running a casino.
As a state, they shouldn't be doing that. And it's the thing. You seize his golf course. What if you can't sell it right away? Then you're running it, and then you're kind of doing him a favor because all the profits you're making from it while you seized it go towards his judgment. So you're basically seized it, but you're running it and paying down his judgment for him. Right? Even though he lost his course. But so there's not a lot of upside here to seizing his prof. It would take years, and it would cost millions and millions of dollars. And you'd have to hire a ton of lawyers and police and all that shit. It would just be a nightmare. The court will do it if that's what it takes, but that's what it'll take. Well, if I'm the appeals court, I go, well, wait a second though. What if we lowered it to like 175 and see what he does? Maybe he gives us 175. Now we've got 175 million in cash. So that's 175 million we don't have to seize. Right?
Right.
So that's 40% of the work right there. Why don't we give him the opportunity? Right? Plus, if you're the appellate division, you probably have a good idea of, are we even going to hear this case, the appeal, or are we just going to deny it? Or if we do hear the appeal, what are we likely to do? Are we likely to... We're not going to reverse the judgment. Probably not. Like Conway said, they're not going to reverse the judgment. That would be insane. They might lower the total amount a little bit. But, 10 or 20% or whatever it is. But that's about the most they could do. So I can see where the appellate court's like, if we can get some more hands on some of the cash now, let's just do that. For the sake of justice.
Yeah. Just a move of trying to simplify things for themselves, probably.
Right, and they're nice enough. And they're throwing the defendant a bone, so he can't bitch and moan that he was treated unfairly, which he's going to do anyway. But they can say, well, look.
Well, anyway, yeah.
They're going to say,
it's
look.
It's his favorite crying wolf activity,
Right, but they're going to show you, we gave you break after break after break, dude, and you still didn't do it. So, it doesn't hurt them. And in fact, if he does pay it, it does help them. Because then when they either deny the appeal or he goes to appeal and he loses, he's still going to have to pony up the rest of the cash, but they got $175 million right away in cash. Which is better for the state of New York than having to spend years chasing it down, right? So,
right.
I don't see the issue. I
don't think most people were thinking about how it might benefit, the court or the state to do something like that. I think that, many people were just looking at it literally from the Trump perspective.
Right. More from the political perspective. What does it look like politically? What does it look like, does it look like we're cutting him a break? And they kind of are, but at the same time, they're kind of doing themselves a favor from the way I see it. So.
Right. Right.
And I think they're doing Letitia James a favor because that's a lot of fucking work to chase down that amount of money from a guy who's got 512 properties that probably aren't worth half or a quarter of what he says they are. He thinks Mar-a-Lago is worth $1.5 billion and it's worth about 25 million. Right? Really? Your shitty, tacky golf club in fucking Florida is worth more than the Burj Khalifa? I don't fucking think so. But he does have one other thing coming his way. He's got the stock coming out. That came out today, actually. It was the Digital World Acquisitions Corp, and they were a blank check company. They merged, and now Trump or Truth Social, his Trump media thing, is now on the stock market as DJT. And
oh my goodness,
his initials, Donald J. Trump. What's funny about that is there have been two other stocks that had the ticker DJT, and both of them were Donald Trump's, and both of them failed. I know one of them for sure went bankrupt. So this is the third time.
Oh, no. Nothing. It was the best stock in the world.
It was the best until
It's the biggest winner in the entire world.
Until it tanked and everybody lost all their money. So let's look at this a little bit, because I think that's what's going to happen now. Is everybody's who's invested in this is either going to, well, basically, if you're bullish and you're smart, you're going to screw over all the suckers. But most of them, it's the old saying on Wall Street, you know, bears make money, bulls make money, but the pigs get slaughtered. And this is just a gaggle of pigs. So.
Oink, oink.
And with the move, Trump enters the list of the world's 500 richest people with a net worth of $6.5 billion. The merged media company begins trading tomorrow under the ticker DJT, Trump's initials. What should investors know ahead of its debut? With me tonight for more is Axios business editor Dan Primack. Good to see you, Dan. Thanks for being on last call. We saw the chart there of the stock sort of just moving along and then reduced bail, and it took a pretty significant leg higher. Why do you think that was?
Yeah, I'm not sure it was about the bail. I think it was about Dwack said that they were going to start listing tomorrow, that they were going to relist as DJT. They'd gotten the shareholder vote last Friday. We assumed they would list at some point this week. They announced they were going to list tomorrow morning. I think that was what moved the stock. People who want to buy this thing got excited and decided they wanted to get in before Dwack becomes DJT.
Okay, and so we've got the relisting tomorrow under this DJT, under a new ticker in this point. What about his shares? He has to hold on to them a while. Does he have any window to sell ahead of his hold pattern?
He does not. He is under a 6-month hold for his shares, which are in the tens of millions, maybe around 70 million shares. He has a 6-month hold. Now, he can ask the board of directors for a special dispensation to sell ahead.
So let me clarify that real quick. So, because this has happened in the past with these types of stock issues, where the owners will issue the stock, the price will come out, it'll be really high, and it's basically printing money kind of thing. And then the owners will sell right away all their shares and get it in cash because they know the underlying stock is bullshit, and fuck over all the other investors. Right? So they've put in a rule that if you're one of the owners and you do this, you have to wait 6 months before you can sell or trade any of the stock. So it sits there frozen, basically. And that way you don't screw over the investors. Well, he can ask, what the guy was saying, special dispensation. He can ask the board, the shareholders, right? Can I start taking out money early? And they can vote yes. But if they vote yes for him, they vote yes for pretty much everybody. Well, the problem is that they vote yes for him. He owes all this money, and he's in deep shit. And right now, there's a big chance he'll take money out and tank the stock. But there's a double big reason why he'd tank the stock, and this guy will get into it in a second. But I want to go into sort of the strategy behind some of this and why it's kind of a paper house in a lot of ways. It could end up being a lot of money, but it's still a paper house.
Ahead of that, inside that 6-month window, and it is worth noting, the board includes his own son and a couple members of his former administration. But it's a really tricky balancing act, because if he asks for that, if it looks like Trump himself is heading to the exits, other people might run. And then there's the question, is there enough market demand to buy such a large number of shares that he'd be looking to offload? So it's a little bit tricky. He could sell some, perhaps, if he got the board to let him, but then that could tank the value of what he's got left.
Oh, is there a reason for him to want to borrow against those shares?
To borrow against those shares? Sure. I mean, he clearly has a bunch of, he's got a bunch of court penalties against him, even though he got the amount reduced today. It's still a lot of money. So there's a reason he would want to borrow against them. Whether someone would be willing to, though, is another question. The underlying company here is lousy. I mean, you're talking about a few $1 million in revenue for this thing. I mean, there's been a bunch of comparisons to this to GameStop. I mean, maybe if GameStop was Google, the company here, there's not much of a company underlying this. So to lend against it, you're taking a pretty big risk as the lender.
So that is the key here to why this is kind of bullshit is, so typically when you invest in a stock, right, it makes you a partial owner in that business, that company. So if I buy Disney stock, for example, I might be like a 0.00001% owner.
I'm right now, as you know, in a very tough re-election.
I don't know what that was. But I might be a 0.0001% owner, but I'm still technically an owner, and I get voting. Most stock has voting rights, not all of it, but most of it does. So the idea is I'm investing in that company and the company's profits. And so the underlying value is if the company goes under, right, the creditors get paid, and then after the creditors, the shareholders get paid, if there's anything left. So you want a company that's got a lot of assets. So you're looking at what are the assets of the company, right? What's the profit of the company versus the number of shares outstanding? What is it really worth, right? And then you value the price kind of like that. So a lot of companies trade at like 1 to 2, 2.5, or maybe 3 times the value of the underlying company, right? But you don't want it to be much more than that. In this case, Truth Social is almost worthless. Trump thinks it might be worth $25 million, but we're talking about $5 billion in stock. So the price you're paying versus the value of the company is over 1,000 times. Right.
House of cards, man. House of cards. Right.
Yeah. So it's not really like there's anything there to invest in. So let's go. What was this? So let's look at. I want to look at this article first, actually. So this is Forbes. And just a million ads. All right. So Trump's social linked stock pops 15%. That was the other day. His shares are 3.3 billion. So he has 79 million shares at whatever the current price is. But they said big questions linger. Okay, so here's the deal. So shares of the blank check company linked to former Donald Trump's social media venture surged Monday, though the rally appears to be an instance of some investors looking to throw their financial weight behind Trump rather than back a robust business. Okay? So here's the deal. So DWAC was the initial company that picked up Truth Social. Now it's DJT, right? Okay, so they had a 15% bump, hitting an intraday high of nearly 43. I think it's up now to like almost 60. The rally pairs, there was a big loss on Friday. Let's see. So Trump's media's financial statements contain little evidence that the company's worthy of 4.7 billion to 5.6 billion market capitalization, implied by Digital World's Monday ticker. Trump Media booked $3.4 million in revenue and $49 million in net losses during the first 9 months of 2023. So that means they lost in 2023. That company was negative $45 million. That's the profits that you're investing in. So I think a lot of this is a speculative trade. It's not an investment trade. This is not some long-term thing, because there's not that many people. I mean, I think there may be 10 or 15 million people on Truth Social, and most of them are there just to see Trump.
Right. It's kind of like a fan club, if you will.
Yeah. And a lot of the investors in this are Trump supporters, and we know that. And they're looking to get hosed because for Trump's position, there's no underlying value to this company. There's nothing there. So if I'm Trump, as soon as I can sell, I'm probably going to sell. And, he's going to have to eat the taxes, whatever that is. But why would I hang on to this when I know it's worthless? And I guarantee you this, with the kind of investors that are...
And you need a bunch of cash.
Yeah.
But
the big ticket investors that are in this, or the people that are investing to speculate, right? They know this too. So as soon as it starts to go down, right, any little significant amount, they're all going to bail and get out while it's still high, because they're riding on top of it. Because it's the same thing that happened with GameStop, where GameStop is a worthless company, but all these people who were fans of GameStop started investing in it, and their stock price shot up, and it was something ridiculous, like over $100 a share. And then people started selling. And what ended up happening was a lot of people that bought in to try and support GameStop got screwed, because the big investors, once it peaked out, said, boom, we're taking our money and running.
Right.
And now GameStop's back down to being worthless again. It didn't take very long. This is even worse than that. This is a company that's never really made money.
So, oh gosh.
So we're watching the investors going in, and peeling out the suckers first. So like I said, bears make money, bulls make money, but pigs get slaughtered. So let's look at this real quick. So here it is, DWAC. Let's see if it'll give me a chart here, or if it's being stubborn.
Yeah, you know what? It sounds like people, trying to get involved in this whole thing are just playing with fire, really.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. So yeah, I told you it's close to. Yeah, it's close to 60 now. So it's only been open a day, so. But yeah, I mean it's gone up since the other day, so it's up 16% today. So, but look at this. I mean, end of the day, I mean, at one point it peaked out at 68. So this is where they're clearing out the suckers, right? 68, boom, sell. I just made a shit ton of money, right? Because if I bought it in the previous day when it was trading at like 41 or whatever it was, 40, 49 or whatever it was, right? So now I just made $8 a share. So if I bought 100,000 shares, I just made $800,000.
Right.
So it's quick. So this might be a fun one. I'm not suggesting anybody do this, but I probably will at some point short this. I want to wait and see if it peaks out around 60 or something, and then I'll probably buy a put and strike it at like, I don't know, 45 or 50. And then if it collapses, then, all of leverage, I'll made fucking probably 2 or 3 times what I invested. So might be fun to short this one because I don't see it lasting. But the problem is on paper, yeah, right now he's worth whatever it is. They say about 6.5, but like 3.5 or almost 4 of that is this, which he can't touch right now. He has to wait 6 months. And what's it going to be worth in 6 months? Unless he can get access to it now through the voters or through the voting for the shareholders, in which case it would be stupid for him not to just sell it and tank it and take the money and run,
right,
and screw over all of his followers. Not that he hasn't done that before, but yeah. So that's what's going on with him and that shit.
So interestingly, though, doesn't that position him to be tanking his stock that his followers have largely bought into right before the election?
Yeah. Well, I think that's what a lot of people are hinging it on, is that they think he's going to win the election. But yeah, no, like I said, you're basically signing up to be a banquet for the rest of us who actually invest and know what we're doing. Because if it looks like it's going to be a sucker's bet, you better believe I'll throw a few grand against it just to see what happens. Worst case scenarios, I might lose a few $100. Best case scenario, I might make 50 to 100 and 200%. But the other thing that I think is really,
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little tempted to play with that one too, and that's not really my jam. I tend to be a buy and hold sort of girl, you know what I mean? But there's some serious temptation to play around with this one a little bit.
It is. It's gambling. Don't get us wrong. Right. We're not advising anybody do this. It's gambling, but
no, not at all.
But it's
to a degree, it's a terrible idea because it's like a total gamble. But
this is why
could be a fun gamble.
Could be a fun gamble. This is why it's like doubly tempting to me, is because if this whole thing revolves around Trump and what's going on with him, so things are looking good for him, I'm sure the stock will go up. But if things are looking bad, I'm sure people are going to start bailing out to be safe, right? Because it all hinges around one guy, not around a company or a company's profits. Just one guy and what he's doing. And he just got some really bad news yesterday, along with his civil thing. He got some really, really bad legal news. We're going to jump into that with Ari Melber here on The Beat with Ari.
Good news from a legal perspective for him and some bad news. And it's all happening today because he has so many cases and challenges going that sometimes, well, it rains legal news. Now, let's start with these 2 New York cases. Trump was back in court in New York for a hearing in that big hush money case. And this is the bad news Trump got today, even if the court sketch artist caught him smiling or smirking or just making whatever face you call that, according to the sketch. No cameras, of course, allowed in New York courtrooms. Now, this is the criminal charges that the DA, Alvin Bragg, brought in New York, dating all the way back to what the DA argues is a kind of democracy crime, election crime, when you stack it all together with the secret hush money payments and assorted related alleged lies about all of that were made to Stormy Daniels, dating back to 2016. Here's what's new tonight, and we didn't know this until, well, late today. The trial is back on. Trump's delay tactics have failed. The judge ordering an April 15th trial date, which is a rejection.
So Trump is going to be tried for, God, I forget how many felonies it is. Felony fraud, for election interference, for bribing the porn star to commit election interference.
Oh my God.
He's looking at up to 10 to 12 years in prison. And this case is going to... Go ahead.
At his age, that would probably be his final address,
Yeah, that's a death sentence. The other thing about it, too, is this case probably goes 6-8 weeks. So he can get convicted by June. Felony conviction. So a long put that goes out to like November or December might be a good investment, because it might be that stock completely tanks because it looks like he's going to prison.
Right.
So, yeah, he's in deep shit. And they did the motions for... They had all these weird jury things. The judge basically slapped his attorneys down because they were just asking ridiculous shit. They were asking the judge to tell the jury that he's immune, so you can't find him guilty, as part of the jury instructions. Then why are we having a fucking trial? Right? It's the judge is like, that's insane. No. But this is, I mean, now they're kind of learning, because it's like the civil judges are going to be a little bit more lenient, but a criminal judge is going to be like, fuck you. No, you're a criminal. This is a criminal trial. You're a suspect. You're a defendant. I'm not cutting you deep.
Right.
And if Trump starts talking shit in court or causing problems, this is a criminal court. They will just detain him. I'm granted they probably won't want to do it because they don't want to cause a political problem and all that, but he pushes it hard enough. This is the kind of judge people are saying will actually just say, you know what, I'm finding you, in whatever it is, violation of the court or contempt of court, sorry. So contempt of court, take him into custody. Then he'll have to pay the bail so he doesn't have to stay in jail for the night.
Oh, man.
But they'll do that, so we'll see how that all goes. But yeah,
and you know what? He's not good at keeping his mouth shut. So, I mean, good grief. I don't even want to feel this way, but I kind of feel like, please, just shut your mouth. Just keep your mouth shut on this one. Because it's like, it's almost painful. Like, I do not like him, but it's almost painful just like watching the same idiotic thing happen over and over. You know what I mean? Where you just can't shut up.
Well, that and his attorneys and shit. Because you got to remember, too, this is a jury trial. So if he starts interrupting and shit, that's tampering with the jury. That is contempt of court. And a criminal judge is not going to put up with that shit.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. It's a trial. It's not, your personal platform. So anyway, we'll wrap up on Trump for today. We'll get into some other stuff. You mind if we take... So anyway, moving on to, I guess, sort of semi kind of good news. The House did avoid a shutdown, sort of narrowly there at the last minute. With it was bipartisan. It was mostly all the Democrats and like half the Republicans, or 2/3 of them. But some of them were pissed about it. It's kind of shocking to me because it's like this Congress has been the worst. I mean, the most pathetic. They've done almost nothing. So Lacey and I were actually talking about this a while ago. This Congress, and the whole time, this Republican Congress under McCarthy and now Mike Johnson. So they've gone through a couple speakers now, and they've only passed 27 bills, and a lot of them are like renaming things. I mean, they're like nothing bills.
Yeah, I mean, they're, I think literally the least efficient Congress we've ever had.
By far.
Like, I that sounds like just one of those flip things you say to be like, insulting, but I really feel like that's literal.
No, you're right. It is. This is
Yeah.
the least productive Congress in history, because they're talking about, like, typically under Nancy Pelosi when she was running things, they would pass 300 or 400 bills a year, maybe 500. 27 is all these guys have gotten done, and 5 of them have been to avert government shutdowns that they were trying to cause. I mean, this is literally tripping on your own dick and then picking yourself up and saying it's an accomplishment. I mean,
Right.
It's really pathetic. But that just happened again. So we're going to look at this. This is their 5th time in the last 10 months that they've almost shut down the government. And barely averted it thanks to the Democrats.
Welcome back. Congressional leaders have reached a deal on funding the government for the rest of the fiscal year. 2 sources familiar with the talks say negotiators have an agreement in principle for the Homeland Security portion of the package. That had been a real sticking point. The rest of the legislation had been agreed to at the end of last week. The DHS funding had been contentious for both sides as the clock ticked towards Friday's deadline. According to 2 sources, Democrats were pushing for additional border security funding, while Republicans wanted more cash to go towards the agency's core mission, without elaborating as to what that is. Joining us now, congressional reporter for the...
So, this whole stupid thing, they get it. They get past it. This was kind of older, but the sticking point was, well, Ukraine and Israel funding. Ukraine funding, I get. Israel, we can debate later. But they were bitching about the border because they still want to run on the border, because that's the only thing they've got, is that the border sucks and it's Biden's fault. Right? But we're going to do everything we can to prevent him fixing it in order so we can say that he didn't fix it. I mean, it's literally handing you a rigged deck and saying, why didn't you win? Because you fixed the deck,
right.
Asshole. Yeah, so that's basically what it was. But they got through it. It's fine. They got more border money. But once again, it's all bullshit. But this is where the drama really got through. So this all happened. They got it passed. Fine. Whatever. Shouldn't have happened in the first place. And they did get it through the end of the year. So we don't have to deal with this till after the election. So that's nice. We shouldn't have to ever deal with this at all. But Marjorie Taylor Greene was not happy about this deal. The notorious MTG was pissed off. And then she did something that pissed everybody else off on the Republican side. And we're going to jump into this guy. I always forget his name. What's the name of the show? It's Pondering Politics, I think is the name of the show. Yeah. So he's going to talk about how she pissed everybody off. This is hilarious. Let's see.
Republican internal fighting, and that means it's a good day for America. It's an election year. The American people are seeing firsthand the stupidity and incompetence and dysfunction of the GOP, and hopefully they will remember that when the time comes to cast their ballots in November. And if not, you and I and everybody else have an obligation to remind them. But again, before we play the clip, just as a reminder, the situation is Mike Johnson, the Republican Speaker of the House, allowed a bill which effectively funds the government for 6 months to the tune of $1.2 trillion to make it to the floor of the House for a vote. It passed, thanks in large part to Democrats. It's on its way to the Senate. It has to get unanimous support from the Senate and be signed into law by the president before Saturday morning. So we're operating on a deadline here. But Marjorie Taylor Greene was fed up. She said this is the straw that broke the camel's back. Mike Johnson got rolled, she said, by Biden and Democratic Senate leader Chuck Schumer. And so now he needs to be removed from office, and Republicans need to be looking for a new speaker, so says she.
So they passed the deal. And what did she do? She filed a motion to oust Mike Johnson, who's the Speaker of the House. Now, I don't know if you guys remember this, but last year, not too long ago, they ousted the previous Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. And what did they oust him for? Oh, yeah, he passed a bill to not shut down the government. And here it is again, and she's doing it again. Last time it was Matt Gaetz. And now she's pissing everybody off because they're really shooting themselves in the foot. Because this looks bad going into the election, and it's going to look even worse, and we'll get into that because they really fucked themselves here.
And so this is in this first clip. This is the Fox Propaganda Network, specifically on the program Outnumbered, reacting to the news, and it's just glorious.
Emily, so Marjorie Taylor Greene said, "I have not talked to President Trump about this." Largely, President Trump and Speaker Mike Johnson have had a great relationship. Speaker Mike Johnson just put out a tweet congratulating him on securing the nomination. Seems like a pretty big voice you'd want to get input from since he's the titular head of the party at the moment.
I feel we are seeing yet another tantrum by a tiny faction of that conference that is disrupting the entire machine that we just exhaustively waited for to get back on track. And here we are again, watching someone steal the time, steal the audio, steal the limelight, steal the attention. She says we should have our attention on the illegals streaming across the border, on a million other things. No, our attention was on you while you gave a presser. I'm sick and tired of it. As a Republican, as an American citizen, I want them to get to work. I love Speaker Johnson. Who would be better than him, MTG? What is your plan? And I don't want my legislature.
So, whoops. Nobody's happy with MTG. Sorry, Marjorie, but
you suck.
I mean, I will not agree that Speaker Johnson is so fantastic, but I will agree with the point of, do you have a plan? You know, what are you doing here?
She doesn't.
Because it is sort of like throwing some crazy tantrum with literally no plan.
No plan.
You know?
It was basically
no plan.
She's doing it to try to fundraise and, like she said, just to take the limelight, to get the spotlight a little bit. But it's really, really strategically stupid because when Kevin McCarthy got ousted, he left. And a few other Republicans left with him. Right? So now their majority was whatever it was, 221 to 214 or 13, whatever it is. That went down. So now they only had a 3-person majority under Mike Johnson. So he barely has a majority. He loses 3 votes on the Republican side and he's fucked. Right? Well, now 2 other members of Congress have left recently. And so they're down to a 1-vote majority, and she's pulling this shit. So we're going to get into this, because Mike Gallagher just decided to quit recently, and he doubly fucked him. It's hilarious.
Thank you for staying with us. I'm Caroline Dade.
And I'm Amber Noggle. Tonight, we are following a developing story after one of Wisconsin's congressmen announced he's resigning.
Republican Mike Gallagher says he'll leave the U.S. House of Representatives next month. That means Republicans will only have a 1-vote majority.
New at 4, political reporter Darielle Fair has you covered on why Gallagher says he's stepping down.
Wisconsin Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher represents the 8th congressional district. That's up near Green Bay. Gallagher confirmed last month he would not be seeking re-election. Now he says he's leaving Congress even earlier. Gallagher's term was set to end next January, but in a statement he released today, he said, quote, "After conversations with my family, I have made the decision to resign from my position effective April 19, 2024. Going on to say he was working with Republican leadership in the House to appoint a new chair to serve on the Chinese Communist Party subcommittee. Gallagher's decision to vacate his seat is yet another blow to House Speaker Mike Johnson, further narrowing majorities for the GOP conference in the House. Republican Representative Ken Burke of Colorado is set to leave Congress this week, cutting the GOP's majority down to 218 seats, with the Democratic caucus maintaining its 213 seats. Once Gallagher leaves, it will bring that number down to 217, meaning Republicans would have just one deciding seat on any vote if all House Democrats vote along party lines.
So now they can only lose one, maybe, well, 2, maybe 1 Republican vote, right? And now they're screwed. Because the Democrats with the independents now are only 1 vote behind. So they started with a narrow majority under Biden's second half of Biden's first term, right? They've gotten nothing done, and they've hemorrhaged members because of their own infighting. That's what's been going on.
Wow.
You freaking idiot.
Gee, right? I mean, if somehow the Democrats become the majority just because of this insanity, I mean, I can't even hardly finish a sentence on that. That seems so out there, but at the same time, it kind of seems possible.
Yeah, it could be that. It could be in a month or two, Hakeem Jeffries is the Speaker of the House. I mean, and Mike Johnson gets ousted because the Democrats take power. Because they just can't keep their shit together. I mean, it's just amazing. And it's really funny because Gallagher, so he's from Wisconsin. So this is the interesting thing about this. So in Wisconsin, if during an election year, if one of their House speakers like dies or quits or can't serve anymore, whatever reason, as long as it happens before the second Thursday in April of the election year, they have to appoint somebody new to cover until the election, right? So they just appoint another Republican. So they wouldn't be losing that seat. They'd still get another guy. So
but he's doing it just after that.
Right. So the second Tuesday in April, is the April 18th, and Gallagher's leaving April 19th. So right at the day after the deadline, so they can't appoint somebody new.
It kind of seems like that is sort of on purpose.
It is. I'm guessing that's just a big fuck you. And this is this is not like a moderate. This is a right-wing Republican. And he's following the lead of Ken Buck, who announced his retirement recently. And he was going to retire anyway, but he just decided to up and leave. And so this is Ken Buck. Let me see. Yeah. So here's Ken Buck, and he's going to talk a little bit about it. This is Ken Buck decided to leave, and this guy's a far right wing. This guy's a Tea Party guy. That's how he got into Congress, and he's so fed up with the MAGA people. That's how far right they are. They're further than the Tea Party.
Meantime, Ken Buck, who has been on this program on a number of occasions and who has sometimes broken with his party of Republicans, is just talking about the fact that this hearing is a symbol of the dysfunction in Washington. And although we knew he was not going to run for re-election, he has just put out a statement. What does it say, Julie?
Yeah, exactly. He put out a statement, Chris, and this is really notable because, again, this makes Republicans' margins even smaller. Now, I'm a journalist. I'm not that good at math, so we'll calculate those margins later on, but they were already really tight before he made this announcement. He did write in part, "It has been an honor to serve the people of Colorado's 4th District." He said, "Today I am announcing that I will depart Congress at the end of next week. I look forward to staying involved in our political process as well as spending more time in Colorado."
So basically, I was going to stay till the end of the year, but you pissed me off, so fuck it, I'm gone. That's what it was. So he's leaving, Gallagher's leaving, so now they're down to one.
Right. He's like, I'm not going to help you hold this line anymore. I'm kind of over it.
No, and this guy's far, far right. This guy was against COVID relief. I mean, he's way out there, far right. But they asked him about why he was leaving, and he says it's because of the dysfunction and stuff. And they said it was kind of to fuck over the Republican Party. I think part of it was and part of it wasn't. But I want to watch this little clip from News Nation, which is a far right-wing station, where they interview him about this, because I think this is funny.
That was you then. That was in 2010. Now I want you to hear from a version of yourself. Maybe the hair is a little lighter, but the same dude. Let's listen to you more recently.
Too many Republican leaders are lying to America, claiming that the 2020 election was stolen, describing January 6th as an unguided tour of the Capitol, and asserting that the ensuing prosecutions are a weaponization of our justice system.
Now, Congressman, you've been in Washington long enough to be familiar with the concept of strange new respect. And strange new respect is when somebody who people on one side used to think was the worst starts agreeing with them on something, or they say something critical of their own side, and suddenly there's strange new respect. So I got to know, in the course of 13 years that you went from being laughed at by Bob Schieffer as an extremist to a point where you're being held up as a role model, as an example of thoughtful, restrained republicanism. What changed? Did you change? Did the party change? Did politics change? Take us on the journey.
Great question, because I haven't changed. My goal is still to reduce federal spending and reduce the national debt, our annual deficit. What has changed, the world around me has changed dramatically. We've gone from a time when the Tea Party stood for conservative principles, for constitutional principles, to a time where the populists have taken over the Republican Party and are really advocating things that I believe are very dangerous. The Tea Party was a group of individuals who believed that the Constitution should be strictly adhered to, sort of grew out of the Obamacare time frame when federal health care was being federalized and people were scared. Now we are into this, we'll play by the same rules as the other side, and we'll burn down the building just like the other side. It scares me.
So
no, he's far right. This guy was against any sort of government health care. Wanted it to all be privatized, wanted it to be way too expensive.
I have to say, though, whether you agree with his politics or not, his point feels pretty valid that, like, he maybe really didn't change. I mean, this is not somebody I really know, but maybe he really didn't change, but it's all kind of gone bonkers, you know?
There's
I feel like there's some truth in the idea that some of these Republicans that I'm unlikely to agree with on things, but some of these Republicans have to be looking around and being like, how did all these nutbags end up over here? You know, where they maybe really are still agreeing with the same things they always agreed with, but everybody around them seems to be different, you know?
Well, that's kind of my point is this guy, when he got into office, everybody said he's a freaking nutbag. And now they're too crazy for him, and that's part of the reason why he's leaving. The main reason why he's leaving is this, is he's already secured his multi-million-dollar next job. So why am I staying in Congress making $174,000 a year when I can go take my multi-million-dollar job now? I was going to stay till the end of the year just for posterity's sake and all that, but now you guys have pissed me off, so fuck it, I'm out. I'm going to go take my money and run. That's what it is. That's what changed. What changed is he's getting his big payday, his big golden parachute. And that's why he's leaving. It's not any principle. He's just fucking irritated with dealing with them. And he's leaving. He's just, I'm done. There's no point in staying. So they drove him out, and he's just as crazy as they are. I mean, this is a guy who literally doesn't want you to have health care. His literal position on the world is, I got mine, fuck you. And that's what he's doing right now.
Yeah, but, like, if they've become, the people around him have become too crazy for him, and he was once upon a time our crazy guy there, like, that's gotta be saying something.
Absolutely.
And I'm inclined to actually believe him that they've kind of gotten too crazy for him. Like, I don't feel like he's really making that up. I think he really feels that way.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
So that's some really weird perspective. So I feel like I always sound like I say the same thing every damn week, Duncan. I'm always like, oh my God, the news. It just keeps getting weirder. I mean, but it kind of does.
No.
You know, how is the crazy guy in Congress now kind of not? I mean, like, comparatively, you know?
Well, wait. We've joked about that many times. We were like, you remember when we thought George W. Bush was going to be the worst president ever? How naive were we?
I remember back in that day. Right. I remember back in that day being like, what the hell has happened to this country? Why on God's green earth are people electing the village idiot? Like, I had very, very strong and not kind things to say about that.
Right.
But now when I look at it, it's like I would be so happy, like if my two choices were like him and Trump. I like hands
yeah,
down.
I'd vote for Bush.
You
Yeah.
know,
You'd have to vote for Bush.
all day long I'd vote for him.
You'd have to hold your nose
You know,
and do it.
and
But
so that just shows you how weird it's all gotten. I never, if you would have told then me that I would ever say something like, oh yeah, I'd vote for Bush all day long, I would have thought you'd lost your mind.
yeah, that's how low our
And
expectations
here I
are.
keep saying that.
That's how low the bar has
Yeah.
gotten. Yep, that's how low Trump has gotten the bar. That Bush just trips over it. I mean, Jesus. But anyway, so that was Ken Buck and Gallagher. They're gone pretty soon here. I think Buck's gone into this week, and then Gallagher's next month. But yeah, we'll see. There have been a couple other Republicans threatening to leave, and if they do, then it's a tie vote. And if two of them leave, then congratulations, House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries.
So,
bye, Mike.
So, I'm guessing that Green didn't get any support from anybody on this ousting thing. What?
She's gonna get some, but it's all the nut jobs. Yeah, it's all the nut jobs. But I think the funny thing is, this tailors into something really nice. So Ken Buck, who we just saw, the Tea Party nutbag, he's from the 4th District in Colorado, which is a very, very red, very rural kind of district. Now, if you remember, he was retiring, so there was a primary there. The woman who's the representative for the 3rd District is Lauren Boebert. And Lauren Boebert was going to get her ass kicked in the 3rd District. So she decided to move to the 4th District, Ken Buck's district, to run against him.
Right, she carpetbagged.
Right. But now that he's left now, they're going to have to hold a primary over the next few months to try and find somebody to temporarily fill his seat. And it's going to take 2 or 3 months. For her to run in that primary, she's got to quit her job now to run in that primary, which she's decided not to do. But we're going to jump into her because it really fucked her. Because now somebody's going to win the primary, and they're going to be put in that seat, and then she's going to have to run against that person who's already been in that seat. And she was already losing in their primary. So it's really screwed her.
It already didn't look good for her, and now it got worse.
Oh yeah.
And it did not seem, again, I stand by my it just keeps getting weirder statement. It really just keeps getting weirder, because I really didn't think it could get worse for her in that situation. You know? I really thought she really already kind of had it about as bad as she could get it, and now it actually got worse.
Yep.
It literally did. I didn't even think it was possible.
Well, and she's already hated in Colorado. So here is, we're going to the Midas Touch. Here's a local reporter talking about her in Colorado. This one of the more watched channels, or one of the more watched broadcasts in the 4th District for news reporting. And this is his sort of take on it. It's funny, but this is the Midas Touch covering it.
Does the exact opposite of what Americans need right now. This is just another con game by the Democrats, calling something one thing and saying another.
Republican Congressman Lauren Boebert is once again taking credit for federal funding for Colorado projects that Boebert actually voted against. Boebert's office sent out a news release bragging about her role in securing funding for projects like highway safety improvements and water reservoir construction in southern Colorado. Boebert is one of 40 Republicans who obtained earmarks and then voted against the bill.
No, are you telling me the same congresswoman who abandoned her constituents at the drop of a hat and switched districts to try and remain relevant?
Today, I am announcing my candidacy for the 2024 Republican nomination to represent Colorado's 4th Congressional District. This is the right move for Colorado, for us.
So, What is with Republican women and filming from their kitchens? Is that just me? That just seems weird.
Oh my God, I didn't even.
I just got that.
Stop and think about that. Because apparently this is how you appeal to women: is you film in your kitchen, or is that how you appeal to men? Because then you. Like, do you water down that you're a powerful woman in Congress by filming in a kitchen? Like, you don't want to look too businessy or official. Otherwise, like, men might not vote for you.
Yeah, this is like.
I mean, I'm kind of guessing.
Yeah, but this is like that weird shit. Like you used to see that in the '80s and stuff in the movies, but it was real. And my mother went through this, where like, you'd have a woman. She'd be like the VP in charge of everything, and she'd be doing a meeting. And one of the guys who's lower on the totem pole than her would be like, "Hey, can you get me a cup of coffee?" I mean, women had to put up with that shit. It was bad, sexism and all that. But it's like, man, why are you this whole? We want them to appeal to women, but we also want them to be docile and sitting in the kitchen, barefoot and making babies, with no abortion rights, preferably men, preferably male children.
Oh God, everything that's coming out of your mouth sounds like ass right now, but it might be what they're thinking. That really scares me.
I think that's what they're thinking. So, oh my God. So yeah, God, she's just so fucked. But that was the other thing that I loved. That she did a whole press release about how she secured $20 million, but it was part of the Infrastructure Act that Biden passed that she voted against. And she's not the only Republican. Marjorie Taylor Greene's done this. They've all done this, where it's like, we all voted against it, but once the money came in, we took credit for it because we want to get reelected. So they lied. And all the local news stations have been calling them out on it, going, wait a minute, you voted for us not to get this money or these jobs.
Right.
And now you're saying you're taking credit for it? Fuck you. I mean, but that's what, but that guy's been calling her out.
It's like, it's where you almost have to pay attention, to really what people are saying. Like, are you taking credit for it because, like, oh yeah, while I was in, this thing happened.
Right.
Trying to make it look like you had something to do with it. Well, while you were in, that thing happened. No thanks to you.
Right.
And so it's one of those things where I think it's a little rough for us voters, because we really, we're not even fully falling asleep at the wheel, but it's like we have to dissect, like, I'm an English teacher, people. I'm an English teacher. This is where sentence diagramming actually seems to count. Hold on, diagram the sentence. Actually, it did happen while she was in.
Mm-hmm.
She just had absolutely nothing to do with it.
Right. Absolutely nothing.
In spite of her.
I want to jump to this other clip though real quick. So same reporter, I don't know his name, but the same reporter with Kyle Clark is his name, with Next in Colorado. But he's going to report on her again. He does not like her. He's been digging on her. But he's reporting about, so Ken Buck left the seat. She's got to either quit her job and run for Ken Buck's seat, or she's got to stay in her seat and then try and run against whoever, which she might not have a chance to do.
Whoever already want to vote.
Yeah.
Republican Representative Lauren Boebert is mad. She thinks Congressman Ken Buck is quitting Congress early next week just to block her effort to replace him. She might be right. So Boebert says now that she is not going to seek the special election nomination to replace Buck for the rest of the year. Here's the deal. She wasn't likely to get that because it's going to be decided by party insiders who have a dim view of Boebert's decision to switch districts to try and stay in Congress. So now Boebert's challenge is to win the GOP primary on the same day that some other Republican's going to win the special election. Both races are on June 25th. Confusing, right? Many voters may just want to pick one GOP candidate. Well, now you get it. Buck setting up two elections on the same day makes it harder for Boebert to win.
Ken Buck's announcement yesterday was a gift to the Uniparty. The establishment concocted a swampy backroom deal to try to rig an election. This will confuse voters.
I had to add the sad music. funny though? He kind of did, but at the same time, honey, you were already fucked. Let's not gild the lily here. You weren't getting it anyway. She was running at like 5th in the primary out of 9. And she's already a sitting House representative. They can't stand her. Plus the Beetlejuice thing where she's grabbing the guy's crotch and he's feeling her up and all kinds of shit. I mean,
those conservative values.
Well, she's just so fake and backwards. I want to show you this though real quick since we're making fun of her. We might as well pile on for a minute. We got a couple minutes to spare.
We're gonna just dogpile on her. Is that what's happening? This is like a
might as well. She's not going to be around next year. We might as well get in our licks while we can.
You know what? Okay, hold on. For all the Republicans who watch us, please, I beg you, elect some funny people for us.
Yeah. Please.
Because we need to have funny people to talk about. And she's clearly not coming back. So find us a funny replacement, please.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we still maybe Katie Britt will come out for us, who did the State of the Union response. Maybe she'll do some more stuff and some more lies.
Oh.
Maybe Nancy Mace will get some more TV time. Yeah. They don't have a shortage of crazy.
They do not have a shortage of funny people.
They do not. So I'm not too bitter about it. But here's Luke Beasley. I like him. If you guys haven't seen him, you should check him out. But he's doing this. He pulled out this old video of Lauren Boebert before she was in Congress, of her on the news when she owned the restaurants that went under, partly because of she gave everybody explosive diarrhea because of undercooked food.
I'm sorry. This guy has this sort of like Bieber-esque quality to me. Somehow I'm looking at him and I'm getting Bieber vibes.
Yeah, here he is. No, he's
which is neither here nor there for me, but I just had to point it out.
Yeah, he's young. He's a smart kid, though. Watch this. This is funny.
On this CNN interview is waitresses openly armed at Shooter's Grill. And take a look at this. Then I have a larger point that I want to make about this subject. And while you're watching the clip, please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel.
I know that on your wall there, you have copies of the Declaration of Independence, you have copies of the Bill of Rights, is the sign that reads to those sitting inside that they are proudly clinging to my guns and Bible. Let me pause and play our viewers something.
Hey.
It's Obama.
You know, this time of year, we all keep getting pinged with political fundraising asks.
All right. Well, the 3, 2, 1.
I don't know if you could hear that, Lauren. That was then Senator Obama back in 2008 campaigning, comment caught off mic, talking about people in rural areas, clinging to their guns and religion. And so I just have to ask.
Okay. So this is her at her former restaurant Shooters, where all the waitresses had guns. That was the theme. It was like Hooters with guns and a bunch of crosses.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. And I love the cross. Oh, you got to hang onto our Bible and our guns. I'm like, you mean like all the pictures of ISIS people when they held on to their Quran and their AK-47s? Those photos? So you're American ISIS, essentially. So here it is. She's on CNN. Here's Obama, current president at the time, the first black president, making a comment about, hey, all these, you can see where these right-wing, white, rural, non-college educated people, they cling to their Bibles and their guns. You can see what they do because they don't understand. Right? He caught on a hot mic saying that. Lauren Boebert, what do you think her response is going to be? This is before she's in Congress. Perfect time to take a shot at Obama. Does she do it? The answer will surprise you.
She doesn't?
No.
Ask is the sign in your restaurant a direct jab at Obama.
No, I would never do anything to disrespect my president. I believe that it is an office that is in place by God, and I would never say anything to disrespect him. I didn't know that comment was even made. I actually picked up the sign just at a local store.
Okay.
No, actually, I stand corrected. A friend of mine bought that for me, and I thought it was fitting.
So in that interview, again, stunning given what we know about Lauren Boebert.
Tell me you're not shocked. So she was a normal, regular kind of person. I don't care. The president, I support the president, whoever the president is, kind of thing. I mean, when Trump was in office, we wanted him to succeed. We wanted him to do good things. We didn't want him to fail because it affects us.
Yeah.
But
I was not happy, and I was very freaked out when he got elected. But I wanted him to be not as bad as I thought he'd be. I was kind of hoping for a pleasant surprise. I think you kind of always are, right?
Yeah.
Like you're hoping it'll be not as bad.
Yeah, and he ended up being way worse than we thought he would be.
Way worse.
Bull in a china shop. Anyway, skip forward to today. Now that she's got all these donors and all the money coming in, she's now... But this just shows you how full of shit she is. She doesn't have any principles. It's whatever she thinks is going to make her the most money or get her the most, airtime or whatever. This was the Biden impeachment inquiry, which was total bullshit. She knew it was bullshit. This is her at that hearing not too long ago.
Executive office fall in terms of what justifies an impeachment inquiry and what is deemed an impeachable offense?
Well, it's two separate questions. What I've suggested is for the four areas for articles of impeachment that you can explore, you can look at some of the criminal code, and that includes things like bribery under 201, Hobbs, the Hobbs Act cases, and those have different standards that I think are relevant. In terms of the impeachable standard itself, there's been obviously decades of debate about that. I would hope that there would be general agreement that public corruption, if the president engaged...
Selling any access.
Right.
Yes.
If he engaged in public corruption involving...
Any sort of peddling of influence. Now, as a follow-up, in previous impeachment inquiries, have actions such as influence peddling and pay-to-play schemes like this been deemed as offensive to the conscience of the American people in such a way to warrant an investigation?
Well, I think that there's certainly a basis for this inquiry to go forward. My position is simply that this is early on in an inquiry in terms of linking these, which are still just allegations, to the president, and that's the linkage you have to establish.
Thank you, Mr. Turley. It is far time for Joe Biden to stop lying to the American people about his shady foreign business deals. He intentionally misled the American people by using complex maneuvers to pocket millions of dollars from our adversary. He lied when he was vice president. He lied as a candidate to gain the office of President of the United States. Now, this committee has uncovered the truth, and it is...
Are you a sort of regular, moderate person with a job? Do you want to be a right-wing nut job? Look into corporate money. Right-wing politics money. Side with Ted Cruz. Have him get you into office. She went from, no, the president is a position appointed by God. I'd never go against the president. I don't agree with that statement, but that's what she was saying. To the guys saying, look, right now, this is just allegations. We don't even have anything. To her going, response being, he lied, he did it, he's a criminal, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't have any evidence. So I would never denigrate the president to now I'm making shit up about the president to try and denigrate him. I'm defaming him publicly. Do you see how fucking far she's fallen? I mean, it's amazing. But that's her, man.
Yeah. I wonder honestly what people who have known her for years think.
Yeah, I wonder too. I mean,
wouldn't that just be super curious? Somebody who's like lived in a community with her or whatever, maybe not a friend, but not an enemy, just like somebody who just has known her a long time. would probably be very curious to hear what they'd have to say.
Yeah, I think with her and a lot of them, I don't know how much they actually believe all this shit, or if it's just a job and they're just playing to the crowd, so they can have their money and their position and get their base and their supporters and their, you know, and a lot of these like Republicans, like Ken Buck, they don't take that job because they really give a shit. They take that job because they're looking to get more money and more support, and then they're hoping to get that big, cushy job when they leave, which is what Ken Buck is doing, which is what Gallagher's probably doing. Mm-hmm. They're going to get that multi-million-dollar job. So
right.
They're not in it because they care or they have politics or they give a shit. They're in it for the money. It's like we joke about this. Like if we were doing this show and we wanted to really make money, we would just start spewing right-wing shit. We just don't believe any of it, but it doesn't mean we couldn't lie. We could sit here and do that because there's no money on the left. There's a shit ton of money on the right to sit up here and lie and bullshit. We could sit here and say, oh yeah, vaccines are bad, the election was rigged. We could say all that and probably make more money. We'd probably get sponsors easier, but we're not going to do it. But I think that's what it is. I don't think she has any principles. I think she's just selling out. And I think that's why she moved to the 4th District. What's going to be the easiest way for me to hold my seat and make my money? So, yeah, we'll see. I think she's gone. I think it's over. So, we'll see. Goodbye to her. Well, do you have a few minutes? You want to do a personal finance thing real quick, and then we'll...
Yep.
All
Let's
right.
do one before we wrap her up here.
All right. So we haven't done one of these in a while. We'll do a cage match. Financial cage match. Mm-hmm. We got Dave Ramsey show. So the way this works is we haven't seen this, right? Lacey hasn't seen it. I haven't seen it. Scout's honor. We're gonna watch it. We're gonna try and predict. Lacey's gonna try and predict what they're gonna say, and then we're gonna tell you why it's inevitably stupid, because it always is. That's why we can do these blind now, because they're always wrong. So we're gonna jump in. This one's called "Can I Work a Side Gig at My Day Job?" No. No, you can't unless your boss says it's okay. But okay, we're gonna jump in.
Brought to you by the EveryDollar app. Start budgeting for free today.
All right, Elijah, how can we help?
Okay, this is kind of a very strange situation. So I'm 23 years old. I work out here in the oil field. I make $26 an hour, 12-hour days, week on, week off.
Mm-hmm.
I have about 9 hours of free time while I'm at work. I'm a well watcher. I basically pretty much get numbers every hour or every 3 hours. Pretty much my total amount of labor throughout the day equates to about 3 hours of work. I don't have anybody down my throat, so I basically just have a bunch of free time just sitting in my pickup, doing nothing really. And my question is, how do I use my time and the internet to increase my income while I'm out here? Jobs look really scammy online, and I know there's a lot of different avenues I can pursue, and it's kind of got me in a state of paralysis by analysis, and I would like your guys' input on what you would do specifically in this situation.
All right, let's start with...
Okay, I want to pause here for a minute.
Yeah, I know, we got to pause. This is so weird. Okay,
so I have to say this one is super interesting to me because I graduated from high school from Minot, North Dakota, actually. Why not Minot? For reasons, the reason. And I do have family, connections to the oil fields and such out there. So, sure. So this whole scenario feels very, very real to me. I mean, I know it really was a real caller, but that's kind of interesting. Well, even before predicting, I kind of just want to venture in here with a personal opinion. Now, before I heard the caller, I was feeling like this seems so obvious. It seems so obvious that, like, no, you can't be working a side gig while you're at your regular job. But God, he really does have kind of a weird circumstance. Like, his job is like he literally just sits there and waits for something to do. And I'm a girl who likes to be efficient, so I don't know what the side gig situation could look like, but I do completely understand the idea of wanting to be productive with your time.
Well, my understanding about first off, we'll get into the reality of it here in a second. A well watcher, aren't you supposed to be checking the equipment? Because if you hit, like, I don't know, an air pocket, or you hit something weird in the ground, aren't you supposed to shut it off to save the machinery? So if he's screwing around in another job and the machinery gets damaged because he wasn't paying attention, right? I mean, he could cost the company, what, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions, depending on what the equipment is. So I don't know about that. I can tell you this right now. Unless your employer, not just your boss, the employer, the company, whoever you're working for, gives you explicit permission that you can do another job while you're working for them, while you're on the clock, it's illegal. You can't you can't do that.
You could certainly, get fired if they found out. You put yourself at risk.
You can get charged with theft because it's fraud, right? Because if I employ you, we have an agreement, we have a contract that you're going to do the work that I pay you for, and I pay you to be doing this for these hours. If you're doing something else while I'm paying you to do something else, then you're violating my contract. You're actually stealing from me. Right? So there can be criminals. I mean, almost never, probably wouldn't happen. Your employer probably wouldn't fucking bother. They wouldn't care to file criminal charges. But it is fraud. Right? Now, go ahead. Did you have something?
I think technically you can't, but logistically he probably could. I mean, he made it sound like, and I don't know the details of that job, he made it sound like he literally sits there and waits for somebody to bring him numbers, and then he does a thing.
Well, the numbers probably, he has to check them.
True. If that's true, he logistically probably can. Yeah, but I think the Ramsey folks are going to tell him no, based on the moral compass aspect of it, like the theft from the employer,
I'm gonna disagree with you. I think if it were Dave Ramsey would say no, because Dave Ramsey's an employer, right? But I think these two dipshits are gonna say, "Oh yeah, can you get away with it?"
Okay.
And I think that's the issue, because like you said, here's the deal though. Let's say he does it and he gets caught. All right. In all likelihood, he'll probably just get fired.
Right.
But if they want to, they can sue him to get money back, because he wasn't doing the job they were paying him to do. So they can sue him for that lost time. Probably won't, but they could if they wanted to make a point. The other thing is
yeah, it's pretty unlikely that they would want to tie up the time, energy, and resources into bothering to do that.
But no, I don't think they would. But I think the other big issue is this: is so that he gets fired, he goes applies for another job. If they call him, they're going to say, yeah, because he was stealing from us. He was doing two jobs at the same time. So he's fucked his ability to get another job in that field.
Right.
So if you're going to do that, boys and girls, it's really simple. Go ask your employer, hey, I'm sitting around a lot. Do you mind if I make some extra cash doing something online while I'm here, as long as I'm monitoring it or whatever? And if your boss, your employer, right, or your boss or whoever says, okay, sure, fine, then you're good to go, because you've gotten permission.
Right.
Right. I would get it in writing, right? But if it were me, but otherwise, no, you can't just do that. Because if I had an employee and I found out, I would be super pissed and they would be gone. And I would not have anything nice to say about them. And when they went to file for unemployment, I would tell unemployment, the guy was working two jobs. He was stealing from him. So you're not going to get unemployment.
Right. Well, let's go on and see what these guys have to say.
Yeah, let's jump in.
You've got all these ideas. What are the top 2 or 3 that interest you?
I feel like the most scalable option is trying to get a following through social media, and I also know that with any sort of endeavor I go into money-wise, I need to have marketing and sales, which I am developing my skills in.
All right, so hold on. I want to crystallize these ideas, okay? So one of your ideas to make extra money in the 9 hours you're sitting in the truck is social media, which means you got to build that up to a certain point. By the way, that's pretty public. Would your bosses, if they saw that social media channel, would that cause you a lot of heartache and even make you lose your job?
I don't think so. I mean, I have posted videos out here, and he has viewed my account, so I don't think so,
Okay.
especially if I was getting traction.
But that's not going to make a lot of money right away. So what's the other idea?
Right. That's exactly my thing.
So, yeah, they're basically saying go ahead with it. Oh man. Yeah, that's weird. That's weird that I get that one right. Honestly, I think you were right that if it were Dave Ramsey, he'd have said fuck that. No. But with these two idiots, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I'm not convinced that this is fully a go ahead with them. I wonder if he's going to try to collect the ideas and then detour him into doing these at some other time.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see. Let's get
On
it
the
another-
weeks off part or whatever.
Well, on your time off, you can do whatever you want. But
So what's another idea?
The only thing I could think of is like maybe e-commerce or like some sort of freelancing. But I also like don't have any really skills. But and now everything seems to be again very scammy. Like I've went around trying to apply for jobs, and I've applied to a bunch of them. And it seems like people are just trying to get my information and take my money.
All right, so here's the deal. That's right. If I were you, and I want John to take, I want him to say what he would do. If I were you, I got 9 hours in the truck. So I'm essentially going to have to make money off my phone. And I was scrolling.
And my laptop.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
Your laptop as well. So I'm looking at not things that require scam, but things that I completely control. So the resale industry is not a scam. You know, so for instance, if you're buying stuff on that week off, so you're 1 week on, 1 week off. I interviewed a couple several years ago on my show that they started doing flea marketing and garage sales, and they would go buy stuff. Like, so for instance, they'd go buy a leather bag for $2 from a garage sale. Because
all right, so resale kind of I mean, I don't know. I don't really have an opinion beyond that. I think this is stupid.
Yeah, I think this is kind of stupid too.
I mean, if it were me and a client were asking me, I'd tell them, look, the risk is worst case criminal charges probably won't happen, but could happen, right? It's not outside the realm of possibilities. More likely to happen is you get fired. You could possibly get sued by your employer. You're not going to be able to collect unemployment. And the next job you go look for if you get fired, if you get caught, is, I mean, I would just say go ask your employer, is that okay? You know, the resale thing, I mean, yeah, I guess you could make some money doing that, but you have to invest a lot of money to do that. So like, I'm going to go to a garage sale and buy a bunch of shit and then put it on eBay or Etsy and...
Yeah, this call's feeling like a little bit of a dud because it doesn't seem like he's calling in, but it's being marketed as a, can I work my side gig, a side gig at my day job, but he doesn't actually really even have a side gig. Like he's trying to come up with ideas of a side gig, really.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
you know, it's different. I mean, I did a consulting gig a while ago and a long time ago, and one of the it was actually one of the senior employees. I kind of noticed she was only there part-time. And I'm like, well, wait, you're paying her like 6 figures and she's hardly ever here. What's she doing? Then I found out she's actually working another job at the same time who's paying her a salary. And so they called them, talked to them, found that out, confirmed it. Both of them fired her. And now she's fucked herself. She's never going to get that kind of job again because she was lying to 2 employers and ripping them off. And the company I was consulting for, they did sue her. And they got, they got the judgment for, I think they got back like $120,000, something like that. but that means they're going after her assets and shit like that. So it's like, you know, I mean, if he's selling shit on his phone, I would just double check with your employer because you don't want that to be an issue. But I'm sure his employer wouldn't give a shit. But on top of that, it's hard to make money in that. The only people I've known that have done that really well are people that know how to appraise items. So they'll go.
So what I think is really kind of likely to happen here, honestly, Duncan, is if he does any of this resale stuff or social media stuff, I think probably the worst thing that's going to happen is he could get into trouble for playing around on his cell phone and playing around on social media at work. Like maybe he'll get written up or something. It may not be a scenario where they realize he's actually trying to do a thing for money because
well,
it really just has the appearance of the social media thing. I'm not saying what's right or wrong or whatever. I'm just sort of predicting what I think would be likely to happen.
I'm with you because he's already said I've posted videos before my boss has seen them and he doesn't give a shit. It's like, yeah, okay, if occasionally you're doing that because you're sitting around, that's fine. Your boss probably doesn't care. If you're selling shit on your phone here and there, boss probably doesn't care that much. My point is you really can't make much money doing that unless you know what you're doing. And the guys I know that made a lot of money doing that were guys who understood, like, collectibles. They understood baseball cards, toys, magic cards.
Right. There was a certain level of expertise in certain types of products.
Right. So they,
you know, like I really know baseball cards, and so that's my niche, or glass, or whatever.
Or book collectors. I mean, those guys make bank, but you have to know what you're looking for and get it at a deal. Right.
Right.
So you're constantly having to shop for things and look for that deal, but. Yeah, it's basically arbitrage work. You're just trying to buy it cheap and then sell it for what close to what it's worth. But I mean, I don't see a problem with that. I would say this: look, dude, if you're crunched for money, or do you have a specific goal that you want to hit financially? If you're working 1 week on, 1 week off, on your week off, why don't you do something like they have those apps where you can do like dog walking? You can make some extra money.
I know somebody who's doing like Uber Eats or, delivery driving, sort of like that kind of a thing, just because she has a sort of quick cash she wants to make so she, can finance something without debt. Absolutely. So she's doing it for a few months. Like that's the kind of stuff that might be good for him just to do on his week off, for a few days. Some sort of delivery driver sort of thing, or one of those, or driving a Lyft or a whatever, where you can be available when you can be available, and then you could not when you're not.
Right. Well, I had an ex, and she used to make these really nice scented candles that she learned how to make, and she'd sell them at like the local boutique stores and whatnot, and they'd buy them wholesale from her and then sell them retail. And she'd make an extra fucking $20,000 a year doing that. So I mean, there's things like that, but once again, don't be double dipping unless you have talked to your employer, because it can blow up and be bad. So that would just be my advice. Yeah, kind of a drag, but yeah, Tweedledee and Tweedledum didn't really. I mean,
Well, they're not really. They're kind of going around it. They're actually kind of not really answering whether he should do that or not. They're kind of trying to find what he wants to do, even. It kind of seems like where they're going.
I think their thought is it they, because I don't think the way they think, the way the Dave's kind of system works is it's okay to do all this shit as long as it's in your best interest, right? Even if you're screwing over somebody else, kind of deal. And I think that's kind of the mentality behind it. But what I think they skip is, yeah, that's true unless you're Dave. Dave doesn't like it done to him, but it's okay if he does it to somebody else. And what they're missing the point of is,
I think if Dave were on here, he would be very direct about, you can't do that while you're on the clock. I think Dave would have probably been pretty direct about that.
Right.
And these guys are kind of going around that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Dave's an employer, so he's thinking from an employer perspective of, well, fuck, if they're doing that while they're on the clock with me, I'm going to be fucking pissed. Right?
Right.
And I can see it from both sides, because I've been an employer, I've been an employee, so, it's just one of those things where just ask. I mean, before you get yourself into trouble.
Right, and this isn't the sort of thing where it's like, oh, well, I've got a side gig selling Tupperware, and I'm kind of trying to get the people around me to buy my Tupperware. Like,
Right.
you know, like that's a different thing than like I'm gonna, you know, spend the hours that I'm already being paid for doing another thing
Right.
that I'm getting for. You know.
Well, this is one of those stupid things where it's like, hey, can I bring my dog to work? Well, ask first. Don't just bring your dog to
Right.
work and hope you can get away with it.
Right.
You know, because if it were my office, the answer would be no. Because we have clients. I don't want your dog running up to them. Anyway, that was kind of boring.
Right.
But yeah, whatever. They're kind of idiots. I mean, you should at least tell them the risks before we dive into just do it. So anyway, that's our show for today. So fun stuff. We're gonna miss Lauren Boebert. That's R.I.P. Lauren Boebert. It's gonna be sad. I'm gonna have to play sad music. Bye, Lauren. All right. Where can everybody catch you, Lacey?
All right. As always, you can catch me in my materials at mysensewithsense.com. You can find articles I've written. You can find information about my course, workshops I do. If you have questions about that, or if you want to invite yourself on the show, send us clips, topic requests, just email us. Duncan, where do they do that?
You can email us at gossipfinancead@outlook.com. The email is down below. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we will catch you next time.